better place to talk about garage stuff. This is about as garage stuff gets than in my studio here. And I'm kind of doing this to soften the blow a little bit because I want to talk about the Pit Boss jack, but I don't want you to hate me because this is a lot of money. And so we're going to talk about a bunch of other stuff in here to help divert your attention a little bit away from the fact that this is $2,200. And but I mean, I think it's worth it. So we'll talk about all this different stuff here in the garage. And so I think well, since I'm standing here on the table, really there's really no order here. I don't think it really matters, but I'm just kind of want to do a hang here in the garage with you and talk about what I've learned to date and some of the items that we have and don't have, and talk to you about, you know, what I'm thinking here. So when I started doing lifts for the first time, you know, jack pads became a much more important thing. And the very first ones I got were these. I actually got a set of Quickjacks sent to me. So if you rewind back to the old videos before the days of me being, you know, pampered with a lift, you know, so I bought the little Rhino ramps, you know, those little plastic ramps from like AutoZone or Advanced. We didn't have AutoZone back then. We only had Advanced Auto in this town. So I went to Advanced Auto, bought 2 of them, and then realized that I can't really drive my car up on them because the cars are too low. And so what I would start doing is I would jack the car up and put the tires on the Rhino ramps if I was like working on an exhaust or something. I just always felt more comfortable than putting it on jack stands. Now, if I had to put it on jack stands, I could. But what you find when you're jacking up a car, putting on jack stands, it's difficult sometimes if the car isn't stiff enough. What I'd always do, jack the car up, put the Rhino ramp under the tire, and then kind of finagle my way. And then eventually I got rich enough where I could buy 2 sets of Rhino ramps, and I could put the whole car, and I just put the Rhino ramps on backwards so they weren't like impeding on my area. And that's spent countless hours laying on my back trying to change, you know, headers, exhausts, cats, all that kind of crap over the years. But now we have a lift. I don't know why I just told you all that, but it doesn't really matter for this particular conversation. Oh, I remember why. Then eventually I didn't want anything to do with this, but I got the people from Quickjacks, which I believe BÖCK owns. They sent me the Quickjacks, and I didn't want it. This is very early on in me making videos. There's 2 products I've gotten for free. Maybe I've gotten some other stuff, but 2 products that I can vividly remember. One was like Royal Detailing Products or some garbage like that, and I had to like make a video, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Just so I can get some free stuff that I don't even want. And then the second thing was the BÖCK, and whoever sent it to me kept bothering me. And I'm like, I don't want this stupid thing. And then I unboxed, and each one of those things is like 100 pounds, and you gotta put them somewhere, so it was just in the way. And then I didn't realize that you needed automatic transmission fluid. I only had manual transmission fluid, so I filled it up with that. But that's where I got these pads. Came with the Quickjacks. You can see you guys in your janky American cars, and they're not even smart enough to put a frickin' jack point on the car. You got the rails, right? You know, only those jank Corvettes and my GT350. So this is from Jacking Up GT350. You put them in the pinch weld, and so these are pinch weld specifically designed, and then what happens is it ruins your blocks. But anyway, I've had these Quickjacks forever since then. I used a hockey puck somewhere on like one of my air compressors or something, and so I only have 3 of these. So I have 3 of my original, this is probably one of the oldest tools that I still have possession of, are these hockey pucks. Again, these are at least 20 years old, maybe even more. So hockey pucks are a good option. And then I got these puppies. These came with the twin bush lift. What did I do with the twin bush? I gave it to Billy, but I didn't give him the jack pads because these things are pretty decent. I don't really use these very much anymore, but used to use these quite often. This sort of brings you up to speed to today, where we now I have these examples from a company called BÖCK. I think you pronounce it like B-U-C-K, BÖCK, out of Germany. And so they make these various different types of rubberized material pads, and so I have some to show you. Some of them we carry, some of them I'm thinking about carrying. but these are a much more sophisticated version of some of the original ones that I've used. So the other thing I have here, which is Porsche specific, and I don't know where to tell you to get these because I don't think the guy's making them anymore, but these particular pads, these are the original version. If you know Porsche, now the 992s, I don't think these fit on, but there's a little tab, you push it up in and twist it and it'll just hang there. And so he made me some tall ones. This was Smokin' GTS, I think his name is Ed on Renlist. And so he made these for me probably in 2015 or so. So I've had these for a while. And I use these often. Actually, I just took them off the RS because I was using them earlier. So the ones that I actually have access to, the ones that are readily available, and the ones I use almost all the time now would be the magnetized version of a nice flat jacking pad. This works, you know how the BMWs have the little rectangle, the E36 has the little circle, so you just put it on the jacking area. I find it doesn't break or doesn't split like on the E92s or you know the F80s, it doesn't split the little rectangle jack point, so you don't need to put anything special on there. This tends to work. And then the nice thing about it, right behind the camera here, is I store them right on the side of my lift lever here, and so they're readily accessible, readily available. The other nice thing is when you put it on the lift, it doesn't slide around. Now, these things are crazy expensive. We have to ship them in from Germany, DHL air, and so we usually bring them in with the BÖCK ramps, the big ramps. But these things cost a lot of money. I forget what they are on the site, but they're up there, and I think they're like at least 30 bucks a piece or something like that. So all that rambling, just to get you to this point, let's put it up on the table here and show you what we're dealing with here. So where this came about, this thing is pretty freaking heavy, even though it's anodized aluminum. It's still pretty solid. Actually, while we're at it, I want to clean the thing so we can clean and chat here. So I was talking with a gentleman who connected me with a company called, was it Broomholes, which makes a aluminum type jack. And I think these guys are all connected somehow. I never even got a sample of one of those, I don't think. I talked to the guy who makes them. Maybe he was just too busy or something, but he seemed pretty gung-ho, and then they kind of lost, I guess they lost interest in the conversation. I don't know what happened. But anyway, one of you had suggested, or some of you, when I was starting to get a hold of different jacks, I bought one of the AC hydraulics, the ones from Denmark, the blue ones, those big bulky blue ones. So I bought one of those guys, and I just found it to be too big, and I found that I had to like put something under the wheels of the car to get it underneath some of my lowered cars. So it just wasn't what I was looking for. So actually Mike has that one, so he's been using it. It certainly looks heavier duty. I bought it, I think, from Pelican Parts, the Porsche, you know, the online Porsche resource. I think it was like 650 bucks, which, you know, all these years of having different jacks, you know, in the beginning I would buy, remember that Craftsman jack? There's still different versions of that running around. That's it was a Craftsman anodized aluminum, so it was real pretty. But I just kept rolling through those jacks every year or two. I would just blow through the jack. The hydraulics would crap out. The thing would explode and leak all over the floor. And so my buddy Clay and I went to. I didn't know what Harbor Freight was, so we went to Harbor Freight, I think in Orlando somewhere. And he's like, "Look, here's the way we got to do this." We were both young financial advisors. He's like, so we didn't have a lot of money, and you got to get the warranty. So you buy the jack. So we bought the Pittsburgh jacks that everybody has, and no one really had them at the time because they were not really super popular then. And I bought the 3-year warranty, and the thought process was, well, it'll probably crap out between now and then. You just get new ones because nobody makes a good jack, or so we thought. And so the Craftsman jack was probably my third or fourth different brand that I'd purchased. And I was just tired of that that whole process of buying something and having it crap out in short order. So those Harbor Freight jacks lasted me, let's see, that would have been like 2006 when we got them. So let's see, that's 14 years. When I got this last year, so 14, 15, 16, so 16, 17 years. I never used the warranty. I got 2 of them. And I remember I used to use a jack like every other day because I was always doing crap in the driveway, changing oil and doing stuff. I wasn't using a lift, jacking it up to do 15 different exhausts on my original GT3. So I was using that darn jack exhaustively, and I couldn't kill those things. And so finally, maybe the last couple of years, I started looking for something different. And so I made a post in the group and said, hey, I'm looking for like a super legit jack. What do you think? And so people started making posts. So I can't take credit for this. I didn't find this and know anything about it. So many of you started making posts. I'm sorry, I can't credit the source here because there were hundreds and hundreds of posts. AC hydraulic was a common suggestion. The broom holes one was another, and then Pit Boss, which is this one, was also a suggestion. And I kind of had written off the Pit Boss idea because this thing is a couple grand, and this version is our custom version. So if you go on the Pit Boss site, you can buy a version of this for about 1,800 bucks, but it doesn't have the same exact wheel. It doesn't have the same exact design that I've done on this one. And so I'd actually had a long conversation, like I said, with the broom holes guides, and we never kind of got together. And so I never even got one of those jacks. I had reached out simultaneously while I was having those conversations to Pit Boss, and I sort of fell in love with the story, and he sort of explained to me how the things worked. But the problem with these jacks is that the vast majority of the ones they make are single pump. So it's like pump, and the frickin' car comes up. And I didn't want that. I wanted a traditional jack. The single pump design is for NASCAR. And so I don't know he told me the whole story. I just can't remember exactly the whole story, but something to do with Jeff Gordon, and they were making it for the Joe Gordon team or the Hendrick team or something like that. And then this guy bought the rights to the jacks that they made, and the rest is history. So I got 2 samples. The first sample was this one, but it had a wheel that was quite a bit different. So the wheel here, so it was about a quarter of an inch lower, but the wheel had it had an indent here, so that way this could sit down another quarter of an inch or so. But the problem with that is that the two little sort of the thicker part, the inner part didn't touch the ground, so then you had these 2 little sections that would indent the Swiss track, so it would crack, it would indent the floor. And so I asked him, could we raise this a bit, and could we make a flat wheel? That way the weight is distributed across it, and we don't have any issues with indentation. And so we have this one, which I think this is the one to get. I should have brought it, but I have the other one at my house, which is the more traditional version. It sits up another, inch or so taller, which doesn't fit under all of my cars. It has bigger wheels on the front than this one does, but I think this is the jack that you want. So this is the Pit Boss low profile version, and I'm going to show you how this thing works in a second here, but I love how this has a nice solid flat footprint that's super low. I don't have to drive the car up on any 2x4s or ramps or jack pads or anything like that, and I can get the car up in the air, however I want, whenever I want. And even though I do have the lift, I do find myself using this jack periodically. You can see, there's some little indents in here. This is my jack. This is the one I use all the time. We had I said, well, if we're going to do this, can you put me an OG logo on it? And so the ones we sell is a subtle. Originally did it in typical NASCAR fashion, obsessed garage all over the place. I said, no, let's just put a real subtle hex on there. And so that's what we have now. I sold off some of the other tester prototypes because I'd gotten 3 or 4 different iterations of this to come up with the one that I liked the most. there's two types of reasons you buy a jack like this. One, you use a jack all the time. You want something heavy duty. You want something that is, you know, is going to be a workhorse in your garage. So you're buying something that that you need. The other person, you're rich as heck and you like the best stuff. Those are the two examples. If you're not one of those two, it probably doesn't fit. So I'm not trying to say everybody should get a $2,200 jack, especially when you can buy $200 one or $180 one at Harbor Freight that will certainly get the job done. I hated seeing those jacks sitting in my garage. It just didn't fit. And so this gets parked next to my really expensive mounting and balancing machines and makes me smile. So I guess I'm in the latter of those two categories. The other advantage, I get to write this stuff off. So let me stop yapping at you and let me show you how this thing works. So in order to convince you guys to buy these things, we also put this in the RS giveaway. So again, if you're not familiar, I'm doing a raffle on this car, a giveaway on the website. You buy certain things, every dollar you spend gets you a qualifying spot. If we have 5,000 people that buy $100 worth of stuff, then you have whatever those odds are, you know, a 1 in 50,000 chance to win the darn thing. And you bought this, you'd have pretty high odds of winning. So I'm gonna jack it right on my lift here to show you how this works. So in my case, I happen to have one of these guys just to show you. There are some companies, I think you can find some versions of these online. So if you are a Porsche guy, you can always find it. And then watch how clean we can jack the car up. I mean, that's a super clean, super solid connection. And then we get the thing up in the air here. So I was able to choose, and so we kept, I forget the number of pumps that we had settled on. But I was able to choose the speed at which it lifted the car. And that was another cool thing for me, is that we were able to come to a conclusion of what the best version was. Because I'm sitting on the lift here, I'll jack the E36 up, but I did want to show you what it looked like on the Porsche. And we'll go all the way up in the air. But you know, they make these in different, like you can do a 1 pump, a 3 pump, a 20 pump. I forget how many. Actually, let's just pump it up and see how many it was. I think it's a little different when it's under load. Let me redo that. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 16, 17, shoot, 18 pumps. Yeah, that's what I thought. So I had chosen something because I like the slightly more precise option. I don't think I would ever come up or feel comfortable coming that high up on a jack, but theoretically you'll get 22 inches, 22 and a quarter. If you put a pad on there, you know, you'd get 23 and a half inches of lift, you know, say 22 inches, you know, without the pad. I guess you can add to it if you wanted to. So you're getting 22 and an eighth worth of full height lift out of the jack. But I like the more precise 18 pumps to get to full extension. It, to me, just seems like a much more practical way to pump up the car, and that way I get the option of some more engagement. Let's go put it on the E36, see how it fits on there. So E36 is quite a bit lower, but still not a super low car. One of my favorite parts about the E36 is your jack points right there. Why is that hole there?
There's like a screw-in thing.
Oh, for like a lift. Yeah, I love that though, because now I know exactly where the jack point is. So there's a little plastic puck. This one, I don't need anything for it. I can just go right on it, theoretically. Let's see how it grabs. Boom. So I'm not touching anything. A little angle in the arm helps that happen. And because of my, let's hope we don't make a liar out of me, but because we have the bigger wheel, I found that it doesn't indent the plastic floor tiles, the Swiss tracks. See it walking forward on the Swiss tracks? So I'm not going anywhere near 18 pumps, you know. You can keep going on a jack, but how much higher do you need to get it than that? So I'm not going to 22. I don't care what you say, I'm not doing it. Let me see what that height is. So that's at, 14.5 inches. So you have plenty of capacity. I'm not doing it. I refuse. We can do it on somebody else's car, but not mine. I have lots of control. I should walk back out, even on the not so pliable Swiss tracks. And I don't indent the floor, which is how I set this one up. No indentation on the Swiss tracks tile. That's what I'm looking for. Now, if I was trying to lift the Raptor up with this, it might not be great. I'd probably want to put a piece of wood down or something. If I was doing something a lot heavier than, say, a 3,000-pound car. Put something down like a metal plate or something like that. But generally speaking, normal car, normal lifting environment, you're not going to damage the Swiss tracks. Actually, I think I still have, this is my reminder spot. See this little crinkled spot right there? That was the original prototype one they'd sent me. That's what it did to the floor. I left that there just for this video I've been planning to make for 2 years. But the new wheel doesn't do it. If you're concerned at all, if you're gonna be lifting heavier vehicles, choose the other version of the lift, or if you have vehicles that aren't as low, choose the other traditional version, not the low profile version of the jack. I'll make another video on that at some point, sharing that one with you. So I'm telling you, man, this thing is freaking sweet. Oh, that's a first. Dang, it's dark. Do you have your phone on you? That's the first time the power's ever gone out here that I've been here. Where's my ego light? I got all these lights for a reason. Should we make the lighting video now while we're at it?
All right.
All right, we'll be back to you in a minute. Back. All right, so to continue to insulate me from the anger of the people that are angered at me having such an expensive floor jack, I think you can see it though. I mean, fit and finish this thing's pretty freaking awesome. So now, last couple of things to talk about when we're talking about, I think these all kind of fit into the same category. These ramps, these are from the same company, BÖCK. Sorry, it's a crazy torrential downpour going on here. So these ramps are made out of a dense rubber. I mean, the race ramps are great. I just find that, I want something more dense. And so we use these. This is actually my set that I use for the lift, or not the lift, the trailer, to get the lowered cars up onto the trailer. So we use these really often. I actually have a video on the channel dedicated specifically to these. We also sell a lot of these for people who aren't going to recess their lift and want something that isn't permanent for certain cars. So if you put it on the front and back side of the lift, it helps you approach it and not, and be able to get the things under the jack points or the welds, the pinch welds, or where the jack points are. So they have a lot of use. They're about 100 pounds a piece, 80 pounds a piece, but I find that they're useful in like lift applications, using on trailers, stuff like that. We do sell quite a bit of these. They're really expensive, not because they cost a lot to make, but because they cost a lot to get here. And we bring them here from Germany. These are a 100-year purchase. I mean, totally indestructible. You'd have them forever. Now these guys, I don't sell. This is something I'm testing out. So this is a company called Altair out of Italy. Didn't we make the word tire in the US? So why are they spelling it wrong? How about just follow our lead there? Europeans. It's not T-Y, it's T-I-R-E. Didn't we invent the automobile? So anyway, these are a flat stopper, and I want to pull the E36 onto here and see how these things work. I haven't even tried them yet. So an alternative to like the little curved version, this is interesting to me. It's a dense foam, and then they kind of were smart in doing, so this would be the one that goes on the back tire so you can drive up over. So theoretically, I could put this right here and I could drive up over them. And so that's why the back version is a trapezoid and the other has a flat on the end. So let's put the car up on here and see how these things work, see what that looks like. This is just interesting to me for those people that have a, you got a collection, you got a bunch of cars. If I was doing that, I'd probably cut a hole in the Swiss tracks, recess it down in there. Then I have an area that's sort of not impeding on me, and I can park my cars on them and not have to worry about flat spots. That's what interests me. Maybe someday, if I get a collection of cars or a big warehouse or something, I could do something like this. It's spongy and softer and helps keep my tires from having problems. But let's see how it looks. These suckers were a lot of money, I remember that. What the heck? Come up a little more. It's kind of interesting. It's like fighting me. Huh. Yeah, it's like I'm trying to pull into quicksand uphill. That's weird. Huh, I could see how that could work though. I wonder if it seems like they would maintain shape. Like you wouldn't, I wonder if they start to bow up. Like there's only one way to find out, just leave it on there. It seems like it's going to, that's part of the reason why it's probably so expensive. I mean, if they're going to maintain the shape. That's pretty cool, though. How much were these things? Let's look. I don't know if we have the internet. Race ramps, e-trailer. Altair Ego. Here's where I bought them. Squadra Lupo. Yeah, they were 800 bucks. Leslie, there's a $690 version and an $800 version. The 690 was 23 inches long, 17 inches wide. Yeah, I think these were just a little less wide. Yeah, so these are designed to hold more weight, and they're a couple inches wider. So they're instead of 17 inches wide, they're 19 inches wide. Probably largely, again, because it costs them a lot to import. I'm sure they're not selling a lot of them. And so same thing, like I'm not selling a ton of the BÖCK ramps, and so that's a lot of import costs from Italy. If I knew how the car was going to react, now that I know, I could kind of cruise up onto it a little quicker than I did there. But it looks like it got a bunch of flat tires, but that's because it's sinking down into the foam, taking some of that stress off. Yeah, but see, look, I mean, I wonder if that's going to get kind of goofy looking and turn into a big pancake, or like a warped pancake. It's exactly what I've always wanted in a floor jack. Now, I'd want it at 200 bucks, not 2,200 bucks, but this is what we get. Freaking single dudes making these, like hand making these things in the US. It's understandable. It's quite a bit of money, but I think our margins are pretty terrible on them, so it's not like I'm making a bunch of money on it. But I'm putting it in as an entry for the giveaway because I do want to get these things into people's hands. It's like the high torque tool. I mean, it gets a bad rap because of how expensive it is, but having stuff like this, the convenience of pure function, and combine it with just some really nice craftsmanship, and I think the handle is freaking awesome. The whole thing is just great. So rolls nicely on Swiss tracks. So anyway, thanks for your support. Thanks for hanging with me today. We'll see you on the next one.